الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا اللهم افتح علينا فتوح العارفين ووفقنا توفيق الصالحين وانفعنا اللهم بالقرآن والذكر الحكيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا متقبلا يقربنا منك برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين اللهم امين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. How is everybody doing today? Everybody's got their mouths full so they can't say anything. Alhamdulillah, mashallah, that's a good thing. Alhamdulillah. It's very interesting when you begin to get in front of people and begin to speak and talk and begin to teach, especially from talking about spiritual matters, not so much just always intellectual things. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you little gifts because really what happens from a teacher perspective, you actually are coming into a lesson yourself. You're not actually giving the lesson, but you come into a lesson. When it comes to spirituality, it's a little bit different. And sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's good? Okay. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shows you actually the lesson before you come in. It's very interesting. Because the topic that we're going to kind of touch on today is quite prevalent in the room, quite, very in the room, especially with all the kids. And it's a really good sign that children are actually here. It gives hope to the future. And also, too, it's beginning to cultivate the hearts. Even if they're just here to eat, even if they're just here running around making noise, they're amongst the angels. And there's good vibes in the air, and there's good love, and there's good company. And all those things have good outcomes usually. And even any of the troubles that you may walk into, in here, in the room with, alhamdulillah, begin to dispel a little bit. And there's some ease in this time, and there's some development. So always be aware of that. That's one of the things that I would always say is that, no matter what's going on in your life, what's going on in the world, there's a lot of good that's going on. So alhamdulillah, it just was a good sign to see all the kids, just for me. Alhamdulillah. So there's a beautiful narration or a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that I think that touches on so much. And we can go in very long detail about just this one particular instance that happened in a young man's life, that he witnessed this and he witnessed what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said. But I just want to touch on a few points because of time, but also for us to reflect. This is not so much about rules and regulation, but this is more about reflection here. This is thinking deeper within our lives and then also to utilizing some of the points that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam makes here to take us to the next level or to the next day, I guess you would say. So, it's a beautiful hadith, and it's وَعَنْ أَنَاسٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. So this is Anas. This is Anas ibn Malik, radiallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with him. And he was a young boy when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the Prophet. And actually, his parent gave him in service to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That what he would basically do is he would shadow the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and anything that the Prophet wanted to be done, he would begin to take care of the situation as a young boy. And one of the things that he actually mentions, which is a beautiful thing and a beautiful distinguishing point of Islam, especially from our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that he mentions actually that he was in the service of the Prophet for over a decade. And during that whole time, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, never actually at all chastised him for anything. During that whole time, even when he made mistakes, he had a beautiful way of correcting him. To the point where when he corrected him in certain things, or he instructed him or pointed to him the different way, through his expressions or through his words, it left nothing but love in the heart. It was nothing but love and yearning in the heart. And alhamdulillah, his mother was very, very keen to be able to, put him in that type of company. So it's something that's to reflect upon. But he's witnessing this moment. This is a very interesting thing. He says, Anna Arabiyan qala li Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mata sa'a. He basically says, there was an Arab, there was a Bedouin Arab, a person from outside the land, maybe that they don't distinguish by name, but he comes and he says to the Prophet ﷺ, to the Messenger of Allah, when is the hour? Like, when is the end of time going to be? Now, a lot of times within our lives, what I want to reflect upon just for a moment, we come up with these questions in our mind, right? Like, what's going on in our life? What's happening, right? When is this constricting moment even going to come to an end, right? Not to just mention what's going to happen at the end of my life. We prepare for it. Some people get insurance plans. Some people already are preparing things for their funeral, especially when they get to a certain age, right? But also, too, then we see, especially in our time, so many calamities and things happening, especially on the news and where things are going in certain places. And then we read certain hadiths about the end of time, and you start to reflect upon it. You start to deeply reflect. And alhamdulillah, actually, this is a good question that he's actually asking, because it's showing not just the question itself, but it's showing a point of reflection on his behalf. That he's thinking deeply. That he's actually thinking about critical matters in his life. Because especially if you look at like a Bedouin Arab at the time, their life consists of a small amount of things, maybe a tent, some fire, just little wood. It's not like a metropolis, right? It's not like a city. So there's certain things, but one of the beautiful things about having little in your life, sometimes you reflect about the biggest matters. And a point of development really happens from a deeper level, right? So now he's asking about this question. And a lot of times I know as a convert, right, when I first converted to Islam, or as a revert, we start reading some of these books. And then you start getting into all the conspiracy theories, right? All to these things, and you get deep into it. The Illuminati's over here, and this is where this going, and then we get all into these things, right? And this is this, and Trump's part of this. Maybe you might even start doing that, right? So you start going off. But look at the beautiful way of the instruction of the Prophet ﷺ, peace be upon him. This is something to actually reflect upon, right? So qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ma addat, or ma adatta laha, right? So he says, at this point, the Prophet ﷺ says, what have you basically prepared for it? So he doesn't get into the specifics, the details, but he points to something higher, actually. Like, what is your preparation for if it does come upon you? What are you doing in the present moment to prepare for this matter that you find within inside of yourself that's so serious? The bigger point, what's the preparation, right? There's another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that he says, if the hour actually comes upon you and you're planting a tree, what does he say? Does anybody know? What's the rest of it? What does he say? Keep planting, right? Because we continue the intention. See, our intention is the most important part, one of the most important parts of our lives, is the intention behind it. Now, the beautiful thing with a sincere intention, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will begin to guide you, right? And so the intention is the biggest part, because no matter what may be happening, we're doing this for Allah. So we continue with the process in which He has delegated to us in that moment, right? Even if it's right at you, you continue on with it, because the reality of our actions is what? Is that literally they're going to go with us into the next life. That the results of it we're going to see in another realm. It's not about what actually happens here in most of obviously we want good outcomes. You want to put in your due diligence to do your best for whatever it may, whether it be raising your kids, doing your studies, whatever you want to do. But sometimes there's certain situations out of our control that we don't have control over. There's certain things, like Jamal may put in all the work that he possibly can to get everybody to come here, and there's just a certain amount of people that just come. He may put he may spend $500,000 in marketing, all this stuff, but imagine only 3 people show up. That's just what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted. And so sometimes we don't get deterred by the outward things, but we push forward. That's the beauty of us, right? No matter what's happening in our lives, and that's the power of faith in and of itself, is that nothing can defeat it. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is infinite and everlasting. So that's what you're shooting for. You're shooting for Allah. So, again, he says, what have you prepared for? And so this is a point of reflection also, too, that we need to think about, especially when we get into these modes of thinking and what's happening, what's going on with me, how do I deal with this? Is what are you doing to prepare for the development in your life? What are you doing to prepare? What are you doing to prepare? Not just, just forget about just actually death, but just what are we preparing for the next moment? How are we actually stepping into the next moment? This is a deeper teaching of the Prophet ﷺ in many other different hadith, but also too we can reflect here. You know, we're one of the beautiful things about Islam, we're people of the moment. And we handle what's in the moment. So this is a beautiful reflection of the Prophet ﷺ and a beautiful response, because this is also to another point, is that Islam takes you to that. It's not to worry about all the details, but to focus on the main goal. To focus on the main goal. Not to get caught up in your past sins, but to go forward. Not to get caught up in some of the things where your name and you know, certain perception that people may have had at some point, but is to go forward and to push forward. To focus on the main things. You know, this is a beautiful teaching of the Prophet ﷺ. And you find this in many different verses in the Quran, and many different sayings of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and many different actions of the companions of the Prophet and how they dealt with things. And so we take from these different things. And remember, this is coming again from a man who's saying this hadith, that he was a youth watching this. So this was something that became ingrained in him. And after, if you search about the history of Anas, you'll find a beautiful story of his life, of how that actually developed, and what type of man he became from this. And this is a beautiful thing, right? So, again, to recap just what we've gone over so far, is that first, the Bedouin Arab asked, when is the hour? When is the conclusion of the human experience? He asked this very big question. And the Prophet ﷺ points directly to him instead of the whole hole and says, what have you prepared for it? Now, the next question, or the answer to that, is what the Bedouin Arab says. And there's two different transmissions of this. One is what actually, قَالَ Hubulullah wa rasulihi. And so, the love of Allah and His Messenger. But there's another riwayah that talks about, or there's another transmission that actually goes a little bit more specific. He says that I actually haven't prepared too much. Like, I haven't done a lot of fasting, a lot of extra fasting. Like, I haven't done a lot of extra charity. I haven't done a lot of extra things. Right? So that's another one. But also, too, he just says, basically, he says a very beautiful thing. And this is one of the points that I want to hit home on. He says, the love of Allah and His Messenger. Now, love is a very interesting thing. Right? Love is something, if we were to ask ourselves right now to say, do you love Allah and His Messenger? That's something that we aspire to do. That's something that we truly hope to achieve. And the beautiful thing about love is that it turns the hearts, but it also too motivates the actions. Right? So like love of your child, like when the lady's walking here with your child, just when you look at your child, how do you feel? How do you actually feel? When the men look at their sons and their daughters, how do you actually feel behind that, right? That especially when the women give birth, right? It's like every story that I heard, and I've never given birth, so I don't know. But every story that I've ever heard was that there's this amazing feeling of love that begins to develop right at the instance. And also, too, the men talk about this. That there's this extra thing that Allah puts, and there's this human being in front of them that literally they'll almost do anything for. So we just see when that actual natural one is put in us by Allah, right? What it begins to engender. What it begins to do, right? So take a look at what starts to happen in this instant. What do? You begin to clothe the child. When it gets sick, when it starts to cry, you hug it. You start to understand some of the intricacies of it, right? You look at it and you know when the child's hungry. You know when something's wrong. You know when they have to go to the bathroom. Right? And as they develop, you get even closer and closer. And when they become into adulthood, you see certain particulars of them that have developed. And also, too, you see yourself in it. You see yourself in them. Places where you made mistakes and how you acted when you were young, you start to say, see, but look at this course of love of how aware you become. How close you become, right? So imagine when you connect that love to Allah and His Messenger. When you connect it to something even higher than that. When you try to fall in love, like if we just took one example, right? We're trying to fall in love with our prayer, right? And that's a work in progress. It's not like we're going to do it, because in the beginning, what happens? It's like work. You have to get up, you have to do certain things, right? But as you begin to work towards that and get rid of some of the laziness that we get into and things of that nature, there is this beauty that begins to develop. In the first instance, it's almost like an addiction or attraction at first, but then there's something even more that begins to develop. The power of love, what it begins to do, how it begins to cultivate the heart, how it begins to push you forward, how it begins to remove certain things from your life that are not needed, and begins to introduce beautiful things into your life that are not only needed, but are basically like an extra, an embellishment, right? So, one of the beautiful things is that they say that, does anybody know what's faster than the speed of light? Oh, love. See, don't give me, I'm not a scientist or anything, but this is something that instantly activates the heart. But not only that, what you see from love in and of itself is that it connects you to different things. Now, obviously, if the love is based very low and based from a very, I guess you would say, diluted standpoint or very low standpoint, right? Such as like love of money or love of maybe just food, which food is okay, but that this is your primary love, right? Or you only come for that situation where everybody's eating back there, right? But it's just food or it's just this. Well, then it has its place and it has where it's going to stop, right? Because we even know for us, especially as spiritual people, right, that money has to have something behind it. What is that? Does anybody know? What does money have to have behind it for it to be good? Good intention, blessing, right? It has to come from, like you said, all this source. It has to come from a halal source. It should be done in a good manner where everything is kept just and level with everybody. It has to come from this place, and then it has blessing. So what you'll see is many times with somebody with $10, it may go like $1,000 because it has blessing. And then also to the $1,000 is really like a penny for that person who doesn't do it like that. And it doesn't produce anything good within the people, and it actually even harms people in certain matters. It diverts people, it makes people anxious, it makes people angry, it does all these different types of things. But when it comes from this type of source, then it begins to change things, right? So, but when we just have love just in that area and we don't attach it to a deeper intention, like the brother was actually saying, we don't put the proper things in place to have it blessed, and then our intention when giving it out isn't placed with Allah, then it stays there. Now, the beautiful thing, again, like, right, a love begins to move you up in the ladder of things, right? It begins to attach you to higher things. So, like, if you come here out of the love of Islam, well, don't be surprised if you don't get a lot of blessings in your life from it. With friendship, Allah invites somebody into your life, or something begins to actually trickle in. You know, things open up. You may go through constricted points because Allah is developing you, but this love brings something, right? You know, many of the, when you take a look at, especially being a revert, which a lot of the people in the class are, alhamdulillah, one of the things that happened to us before we converted to Islam, we probably were in a very constricted state in our lives. A lot of us were. If you take a look at some of it, there might have been something going on, but Allah was preparing you for this, to show you the narrowness of some of our lives that was happening at the time. This is a beautiful journey if you take a look at and you reflect in your life. But love, again, it attaches you to people. It resides within you, right? It's something that, subhanAllah, we can go on and on and on about it. Especially if anybody who's fell in love, and you see, especially for like another person, right? What it begins to do. So, one of the things that the Prophet ﷺ, now he answers. Now take a look at this. So he says, I've prepared the love of Allah and His Messenger. This is what I have. He asked this question, what have you prepared? Again, when is the hour? The Prophet ﷺ answers again in a proactive way. Okay, making him reflect again on himself. So what have you prepared for it? What have you done for it? And he says, I have the love of Allah and His Messenger. Right? And so it's interesting also too, he mentions not just the love of Allah, but also too of the Messenger. It's a very, very important point. It's because we do love the Prophet ﷺ, and also too, we follow his way, and by love, you'll begin to replicate both his internal and external actions. And the internal is the very important part, meaning like being trustworthy, being courageous, acting on wisdom, being patient, being sympathetic, being tolerant, all these different things. These are the most critical things in life. These are the actions of faith. These are the things that level the playing field in the world. These are the things that help cultivate the world in a proper way to foster, beautiful development. This is the thing, right? So this is a love of Allah and His Messenger. And the only way that we can know properly how to remain in communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is through the Prophet ﷺ. This is our gateway, so it's a beautiful thing. So, and then now does anybody know what the answer is? So again, the first question was, when is the hour? This was by the Arab. Then he mentions again, right? He said, what have you prepared for it? And then what does he answer with? The love of Allah and His Messenger, right? Now, what was the answer to that? What was the answer to that one? What do you think? He's on a roll today, ladies. Usually it's over here, but he's on a roll today. He's on a roll today. So somebody's got to come over here and come up with the answer. Mashallah, right? Anta ma'a man ahabbatta. You will be with the ones whom you love. This is very interesting. I think it was Ibn Umar, radiallahu anhu, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, said a very beautiful thing. Is that when this was said, and also to Abu Bakr, that Abu Bakr actually danced a little bit. He was so happy. He was so happy. It made Abu Bakr dance a little bit. It's in a poem. It's very beautiful. But he actually just started getting so happy because they all loved the Prophet ﷺ and they all loved Allah. And they knew from this that they had a chance. They had this beautiful love. They had this, right? And actually, Ibn Umar said they rejoiced that day like they never rejoiced before. That you'll be with them, right? So if you have this little bit of love. Also, too, another point that Ibn Hajar Asqalani, which is a great scholar, he said this is a great sign, actually. This one, and there's another hadith. For people who have kind of messed up a little bit, right? Sometimes we make mistakes. There's another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that talks about this. There was a man who used to he had a big problem with alcohol during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Had a very big problem with alcohol, and he used to openly drink sometimes and get drunk. And we see this happen sometimes in our lives. And obviously in an Islamic setting, there's a certain way that they handle that. And when that happened, some of the companions noticed that he was doing that a lot, and so they started to actually say bad things about him because they thought maybe that it would change him or whatever, or but now we know, especially a lot of psychologists will always tell you that the shaming aspect sometimes can be actually very harmful, especially when people have addictions. So take a look at the response of the Prophet ﷺ when that happens, right? And they did it out of good, they had good intention, right? But sometimes we have good intentions, but we do things that maybe can actually hurt somebody. So they start saying stuff, and the Prophet ﷺ says, do you want to help shaitan with your brother? Do you want to do that? This is going to actually hurt. That's what he's basically saying. He says, verily, all I know of him is that he loves Allah and His Messenger. And so the beautiful, great teachers before us interpreted it like this, is that even with people that have little problems, is that love there will begin to manifest in their actions, but ultimately in the next world override what they did. Right? It will be, they will, if they wanted that, sometimes we struggle, still just your intention of wanting to be in a certain place with a certain people will manifest. Isn't it? This is a beautiful gift for some of the stuff that we make mistakes on, right? This is a beautiful gift by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just that this internal strive and want will help us. But again, like I said again, this is the power of love. The beautiful power of love, that it can bring you to the highest point of paradise. Is attaching it to the right thing, though. It's attaching it to the right thing, Allah and His Messenger. So, this is kind of what I wanted to reflect upon, and then just leave off with one other hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. One of the companions asked, قال قلت يا رسول الله قل لي في الإسلام قولا لا سأل أسله عنه أحدا غيرك. So he asked a very beautiful question. He says, Ya Rasulullah, tell me something in Islam that you're going to say this to me, and I'm not going to actually have to ask anybody else for anything else. Now, leave off with this. I'm not going to have to ask anybody for anything else. This is going to be it. right? So he says, قَالَ قُلْ أَمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ ثُمَّ اسْتَقِمْ, and also to in another riwayah, فَاسْتَقِمْ, which is a difference. But basically what he says is, he says, say, I believe in Allah, and then begin to stand up or begin to erect yourself in that. So, a lot of times what we do is procrastinate in things, right? You know, we procrastinate in maybe certain things in our lives, especially when it comes to things that we don't take as immediate. But I can tell you for sure, assurity, that your prayer, your belief, your practices, and your internal development is of the most immediate concern. It is of the most immediate concern. The most immediate concern in your life. It will bring amazing things in. And you have to trust in it. I'm just telling you, like if you do, like I said, Fajr prayer at your house or in the masjid every morning, you get up on that, alhamdulillah, inshallah ta'ala, you will see beautiful things in your life. Even if things are coming in that seem constricting, Allah will give you the fortitude inside of yourself to handle the waves. Things will come in. I've seen it too many times. I've seen it. You know, the beautiful thing is, right, I teach in the prison. And so those guys or those sisters are always in a situation where their backs are against the wall. Completely. Some of them are facing life sentences and all those types of things. Possibilities of never coming home, never seeing their kids, a lot of these, especially the sisters in CIW, which I would always suggest if any of the sisters here ever want to volunteer or go there, you can always contact Link Outside or contact myself and sign up to volunteer and hear some of their stories. But literally, every time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through those people shows me even more about my faith. You see it. You see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers them, how they find different things within just that little small confined place. They find a paradise because they open themselves up to faith. And it comes through love. Alhamdulillah. So the power of love, remember it. Are there any questions? Are there any questions of anything that I said? Yes. The volunteering would be for, it's Link Outside. It's actually a program that IOC does. It's a prison outreach program, alhamdulillah, that I'm a part of actually. I go to CIW, I go to the Californians Women's Institute every Tuesday. Every Tuesday. And so if you do want to volunteer, it's a process sometimes of getting through, so if we do put the paperwork in, don't be disappointed if it takes us like 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get it cleared, because it's a long process. But one of the things is that, subhanAllah, love, again, right, is that you see how the love of Allah begins to transform any situation. The love of Islam, it transforms any situation. And so, remember that. Like, try to be conscientious about that. Try to fall in love with these different practices that we do. It's there, trust me. You might have to go through a little process, but it's there. And you'll see amazing things from it, and amazing development from it. So alhamdulillah. So there's no questions again? Why do I always come here and there's no questions? MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. Yes, you have a question. Say it again? Every Tuesday. Every Tuesday I go, usually. Yeah, I go for women over here, and then for men I go on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and sometimes Friday. So I usually go quite a bit. Yeah, alhamdulillah. And it's interesting because there's many similarities, but also there's differences in just some of the mindsets. Alhamdulillah, one of the things that I always see now, because when you see them separated, right? Like in a normal society setting like this, there's differences. But when you see people really separated, and especially that they're in a confined space for a while, then you see the workings of people differently. And women, I could tell you like this, alhamdulillah, they're going to be the saviors of the world. Because even how they process it, a lot of those ladies actually have life in prison. They've gotten into some bad relationships too. That's another thing that happens. And then it really spiraled into something really crazy. But the way that they process things, and then also the way that they treat each other is totally different. It's totally different. And then when you go to the men's facility, everybody's very stiff. So alhamdulillah, so it's something totally different. But alhamdulillah, Yeah, and it's really another thing also too is that you see how through teaching these things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows the love of people to trickle in, or the love of you to trickle in people's hearts. And just these little words that you give sometimes of you don't really know, like especially for anybody who's a mentor here. Yeah, take it very seriously. I know Jamal pairs people up and things of that nature. But if you're a mentor to a new Muslim, especially in their beginning development, it's very impactful what you say to them in the beginning stages. And so make sure that you're coming from a place of love, right? And that's one of the things that my teachers actually recommend is that you can't even correct anybody. This is actually what my teachers would say. You can't really even correct anybody unless you're coming from a place of love. Because your admonishment will come from a place that's not actually going to heal them. It's just, oh, you're doing wrong. No. You have to come from a place that I actually do care. I actually want you to do better. And also, too, I know that I do some things wrong sometimes, too. So I should be very aware. Right? And that's when some of the great teachers before us. And the Prophet ﷺ was always coming from a place of love in all of his actions. Because he was always saying, if you know from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, ummati, ummati, my ummah. Oh Allah, my community. That's coming from a place of love. And that was for Muslims and non-Muslims. So remember that. A place of love is really good. Any more questions? I know that she asked. Any more? No questions? Alhamdulillah, thank you. You should contact Amin Ishaker. You know who he is? No. Actually, he lives right next door. No. I didn't mean, I think everybody knew, but alhamdulillah, I apologize if I'm sorry. Alhamdulillah. So, but he's quite frequent here. Amin Ishaker, he's the director actually, Link Outside. He'll give the details, yeah, sorry. But if you want to write, that would be a good thing. Alhamdulillah. Any questions from any side? Anything that I said that wasn't? Yes. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So he makes a very good point. We kind of talked about it before, but that's a good point to get a little bit more in depth. Sometimes you'll see, especially, like I said again, especially when I first became Muslim, right? That was something that, the last hour, like you see it on the YouTube video, the Judgment Day, right? And you get into all these details and certain things that are happening, and hey, does this hadith mean this? And hey, look, this is what's happening. And yes, some of these things are actually really happening. It's no doubt about it. But one of the things is that we don't get caught up in the details of things. Is that no matter what's happening, if we stick to our faith, it has put a force field around us almost. It's not to say that we won't experience things, but it gives us all the tools that we need to go forward. And it also too gives us all the tools that we need to actually facilitate change to the situation. But it's just about us prioritizing, okay, like he said, not getting all this, oh my God, the aliens are coming, this is happening, that's oh man, this and that, and I don't know, somebody, the jaw manifested and all these different things will start to happen, you'll start to say, right? Is this him? Okay. But no matter what's happening, we still have the same course that we have to follow. Like it doesn't change, like all of a sudden, look, oh my God, this comes, so we don't go to the masjid anymore and we stay. No, it's actually, no, we have the same course that we follow. We still are people of tolerance. We're still people of beauty. We're still people of consistency. We're still people that are giving, that are loving. We still continue on with the prophetic way. And not to get really caught in the details, but kind of primarily focus on what you need to be doing. Because that's what the Prophet ﷺ is saying, like we said again. He says, what have you prepared for it? What have you actually done for it to ready yourself for the situation? Alhamdulillah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, mashallah. Also, too, for anybody who was here, I think you might have been here the last class I was here. I'm pointing people out. I'm sorry to put people out. Alhamdulillah, it keeps people on their toes, right? I mentioned 3 things also, too, because I know we have a little bit of time and finished a little bit early, but this is good. I mentioned three things that one of the scholars says actually all goodness lies in. And so I'll just reflect upon it real quick. He says, number one, first and foremost, is seeking the help of Allah from a place of like divestment or from a place of humility. This is number one. So like she was saying actually, making salah and making dua sincerely, coming from that type of place that, look, I don't really know. If you ask yourself in totality, you don't know too much about your life. You don't know too much about yourself. If we ask really deeply, we don't know anything really about ourselves too much. Maybe a couple things, right? But coming from that place and making dua, that's a very powerful place. That's where your connection to Allah is. It's a beautiful place. So he says that ask the help of Allah from that place. Then also too, reevaluating your level of sincerity in your actions and collecting your spiritual aspirations. So putting it all together from a place of sincerity, if you just want to sum it up. And then, like I mentioned again last time, the thing that we see in Ramadan a lot, right, is himma. Capitalizing on the aspiration that we get. Capitalizing on that power, that spiritual power that we get, right? We see it in Ramadan. Everybody, any of you guys ever did Taraweeh here? You can raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay, alhamdulillah. So, if you come here for Ramadan during the prayer time, when it's a special prayer called Taraweeh prayer, during Ramadan, you'll see, especially even in Ramadan, this whole place is full. It's full. It's packed. It's packed with people that you haven't seen. It's packed with, just people just walk in sometimes that you haven't, you never seen. You've been here all the time. You've been to every class. You've been coming to the prayer. You might live next door, right? You start, wow, it's like, because Allah opens up this beautiful gate of mercy. And so now people are inspired a little bit, right? But there's times in the regular year that you can capture that energy. And it comes from the prayer. It comes from these different things. You can begin that process and go forward, because Ramadan's supposed to serve as the purpose for us to reflect, it's like a spiritual recharge. And you can take that recharge to the next year, and hopefully we don't go on E, right? It doesn't, like when the cell phone goes down, we get to that little red point, 15%. We want to be at like 25 when we get to the next Ramadan. We still want to be green, right? So we still want to be green. So, and then we hope after that next Ramadan that we're at 40% or 30%. We're always developing. And then maybe we can, inshallah ta'ala, when we hit one Ramadan, we're at 100%. It's just, so that's really what we want to do. We want to get that recharge and keep moving and keep going. We want to refocus. We want to make repentance. We want to amend the wrongs that we had, or even if we haven't done really any wrong, we want to further in our good. We want to take it to the next level. We want to push ourselves a little bit harder maybe. Because then you see it in Ramadan, right? You're pushing yourself. You're fasting. Your stomach's getting quaky, right? For the coffee drinkers like myself, you get the headaches for a few days and you do one of these when you wake up. So, looking, Assalamu alaikum. Why are you wearing glasses in the dark, brother? Why are you wearing sunglasses, Assalamu alaikum, brother. So you're going through these situations, right? But then finally you find this spiritual clarity. You find something, right? Or maybe it's your first Ramadan that you actually read the Quran in Arabic. You read some of it. You're actually learning Arabic. These are huge strides. You learning these little things is a real big deal. So, alhamdulillah. So, again, we don't get caught, just to go back to what Jamal was saying when we kind of went off a little bit, but we don't get caught just in the details. We primarily focus on the goal. We're people of the moment. We're people who go forward, and we have a goal, and we have an objective, and we begin to try to attain it in the best ways that we can possible. And when we make mistakes, the beautiful thing is, it's actually something not against us if we return and go forward again. Alhamdulillah. Any more questions? Keep them coming. Yes, the Quran. Yes, there is traditions of the Prophet, yes. Or I should say sayings of the Prophet. Uh-huh. Okay, so first is the Quran, which is what we say is this Kalamullah, or the speech of Allah. It's the holy book, yes, exactly. Then there's actually sayings of the Prophet, which are different maybe conversations that he had, or different statements that he made. That's what they call the Sunnah. Yeah, so the Sunnah is what is said is the actual practice way of the Prophet. So the hadith, it's a little bit. Maybe I should we'll speak about it after class because it's a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit. But basically, what you have is the Quran and then the sayings of the Prophet Islam, right? So that's one of the things. The Sunnah is a little different term, but a lot of times they utilize it as the Sunnah. They'll say that, but it's the hadiths or the other books that you'll see sometimes are the sayings of the Prophet, or sometimes a hadith can be actually a saying of a companion. It's just. Well, when it comes to Islamic literature, there's tons. There's so many. Yeah, there's no. It's not like. No. I mean, the primary holy book is the Quran. That's what it is. Then there's actually two sayings of the Prophet, and there's many different books that talk about different sayings that he said. There's also two commentary on that, and there's different. You know what I mean? So it goes on. There's give you an example, like the Quran. The Quran is actually compiled, but also too there's commentary on the Quran that explains what the verses mean. Stuff like that. So you have series and series of books. Yeah. No, but what you should do, what I would actually, you're new to this? What I probably would tell you to do is take a class with CIU on hadith if you wanted to do that, and talk actually to Sheikh Mustafa or talk to somebody. You could talk to Jamal to kind of guide you in that because there's some things that this is just my personal opinion here. There's some things that when I became reverted to Islam that if going back I had to rewind, I wouldn't have focused on. Because it just was like not a waste of time, but I could have been directing my energy in a better way. Probably more character development than just actually theoretical things. That's really what it was. And because that's one of the most primary, or that's one of the most important things in the beginning. Is your prayer, things of that nature, but also to making your prayer alive in your actions, making it a part of your life. These are the more important things, purification of the heart, especially unless you're going to become a scholar. These are the really important things, No problem. Any other questions? No, ladies? None? How about the guys? No questions? Okay, alhamdulillah, I guess that's, mashallah. All right, alhamdulillah, let me close out. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا اللهم آمين. Alhamdulillah. Thank you everybody for coming and bringing yourselves. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. This is you have no idea how important these classes are. You have no idea. You even help the people out there. You don't even know it. Just by coming here. So just understand that it's very important.
Yeah. I want to thank Jesse. Thank you so much for taking time on joining us. And like we try to emphasize as much as possible here, we have these classes so that we can all learn together, right? So try to do, I'm very happy to see a great turnout, but keep it consistent as we can. I'm sure every week certain things come up for all of us, right? But try to do your best to pencil out the Friday and Sunday classes every week so that we can all kind of grow together. So thank you so much for the reminder, Jesse. A few things. So as you know, we have a New Muslim/Convert retreat coming up, our winter one-day retreat. So I hope, so those registration forms have gone out. I ask you please to help us out by registering as soon as possible if you're able to make it. Of course, if you can't make it, you don't have to register. But if you are able to make it, please fill them out as soon as possible. We do need an accurate head count. They have a capacity, and once we reach that cap, we can't go over, right? So we need to have a ballpark understanding of how many people are coming. Of course, we're going to provide food and everything. It will be $7 per person just to kind of help us with the cost. Of course, nobody's going to be turned away due to lack of funds. So please, if you don't have the funds, don't say, I can't come. No, please come. We'll make a way, but the fee just helps us to offshoot the other expenses that we have, like actually renting the space itself and so forth, right? So please keep that in mind. That's going to be February 3rd. Sunday, February 3rd, so it's coming up. As you guys know, the first Sunday of every month, we do a social activity where we all get together, we do a potluck. This time, we're taking it out into like the foothills area or the mountains area. It'll be really nice. Inshallah, I think Jesse and his family will be joining us too. That'll be great. Any questions regarding that? Let me first start off with, did you guys get the forms? Did you get the email? Did you open the email? Yeah, okay. So I only had like about 5 people that registered so far. I haven't checked it right now, but maybe more have registered. But if you didn't get it, first I would ask you to please look in your spam or junk folder. Sometimes it goes there. So So just open that up first. If it's not there, just shoot me a text or email, and I'll go ahead and get that sent to you guys, if that's okay. Of course, your family members, your non-Muslim family members, guests, friends, they're most welcome to come. This actually is a really good opportunity for them to come and kind of see what Islam is all about. Any questions regarding that? Everyone's okay with that? Okay, perfect. Also tonight, as you guys know, there's going to be like a lunar eclipse. So we have something called Salatul Khusuf, which is a lunar eclipse prayer. So we're having that tonight here at IIOC. So if you have never witnessed that or the specific prayer itself, I would highly encourage you to come. Even if you don't want to take part in the prayer, just come and just observe. It'll be really nice. They're very spiritual. It's going to be tonight, 7:30 p.m. So 7:30 is Isha. So right after, about 7:40-ish, they're going to pray here in the main hall. So just join us here at IIOC. Yes? Yes, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be slightly different. Yeah, but they'll give you instructions when the imam who's going to be leading, we have a guest imam coming, he's going to instruct us as to how the difference is. That's why, because it doesn't happen so often, it's a good refresher for everyone. Yeah. It really depends. Every imam, some might pray really long, some might be very short. It just really depends. So that's what I'm saying. So if you guys are for some reason not able to stay for the prayer, I don't know how long they're going to pray here. Every community might differ a little bit, just a little bit, but at least just be in the environment. It'll be good. Yeah, good question. Yeah, Michael. That is on February 30th, yeah, Sunday. No, I don't think so. I think we should be. I thought you were going to say the Super Bowl. I was like, wait, is that the Super Bowl? I just thought about it right now. Can somebody just Google real quick when the Super Bowl is, if you don't mind? Is it? I think it's, oh no, that's not good. Yeah. We should be okay. We should be okay, but we would love to have you there with us, inshallah. God willing. It is? Okay. So I'm sure we can, how many of you are actually really going to be like, you know what, I need to stay home or go somewhere for Super Bowl? Just be honest with me so they have an idea. Do you guys have plans for Super Bowl? I know it's a big thing in our culture here, so. So you guys are okay, we can keep the date? Because we already like processed the paperwork and everything like that, so. All right, good. But if for some reason you can't make it or, you know, Super Bowl is really big for you, we'll try to do something to, I have no idea right now, but we'll try to do something. But I'm sure we can take some time on, no worries, inshallah. And also, please keep in mind, as Jesse mentioned earlier, about our prison outreach program. It's called Link Outside, which is basically, you know, we have a dawah and outreach program. We also have a program that we connect with our brothers and sisters inside prison, also like a re-entry process. So once they're released, we try to also help them out. So number one, we need volunteers definitely, right, Jesse? So if you are interested, you can always see Jesse. You can see myself. I'll connect you with Brother Amin, who's a project director, along with Brother Jesse. Some of the things that they do pen paling, right? So they're writing letters to brothers and sisters in prison that are incarcerated, right? Secondly, they actually go and visit brothers and sisters, right? So which is very important as well. So, you know, that motivation, that just visit, it's huge, especially like on our holidays. I think Jesse can say, and he's seen this, and I think we've all seen this, you know, when it's like Christmas time or other holidays, they get a lot of visits, non-Muslims, right? Imagine our new Muslim brothers and sisters during our holiday, during Eid time and stuff. Sometimes people don't even visit them. So this is not, am I correct on that, Jesse? Yeah. So it's very sad. So we should try to do our best, even if it's, let's just say once a month, we can go as a group and just go visit. I think it'll be really nice. So again, you can see Brother Jesse, you can see myself, you can email me, whatever it is, I'll put you in contact, Brother Amin. There is a background check you have to do. It takes a few weeks sometimes. And then we'll go from there. But on that note, the event that I mentioned about prison outreach program we're gonna have here, you know, a Friday night program, is gonna be on February 15th. So this is like, we're gonna have some of our new Muslim brothers and sisters talk about their journey to Islam. They were incarcerated, now they're released, so we wanna hear about their stories, right? So that's gonna be February 15th along with halal tacos. So make sure you bring your appetites as well. Kitchen opens up 6 p.m. and then the talk will be at 8 p.m. inshallah, God willing. Yeah, you sure?
Alhamdulillah, if you can tonight, especially for the prayer, try to really participate. It's actually, you know, it's not something that happens all the time. It's really a blessed time, and our Prophet ﷺ did it. Also, too, always in these special times, it's really good to give sadaqah at any time. So, you know, really process this to try to, you know, try to actually take advantage of this. It's really, it's an opportune time if you possibly can. If you can't, I mean, alhamdulillah, you know, Allah knows your intention. But if you can, make it like, events, especially for our kids. We should make these things like events, like very celebrated times, very good things like the Eids and things of this nature. We need to put this in our culture and bring this back. Alhamdulillah. That's all I had to say.
All right, so with that, if you guys can help me out with the tables. Yes, I'm sorry, Sister Evelyn? I'm so sorry. Which one, sorry? The retreat? So the retreat, I emailed everyone. For the prison outreach program? Sure, I can. Yeah, definitely, I can. Yeah. Or if I do forget, which I hope I don't, just remind me if you guys don't mind. Just email me or text me. That'll be great. All right. Any other questions I can field? Everyone all right? Good to see a great audience and great turnout. So let's go ahead and fold up the tables and chairs. Let's put it on the racks, and then we'll put it against the wall. Please help yourself. There's a lot of pizza and food left over. If you guys can make a plate and take it home, that'll be great. And may Allah bless you all. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.